In this update, we've got a very volatile weather pattern taking shape over the next couple of days, and then a rare storm develops heading into this weekend in a very unusual spot for this time of year. So let's walk you through the details going forward. You can see this complex of storms this morning impacting portions of Texas. That's complements of an MCV. That's a little mesoscale convective system. It's just very slowly spinning, leaving copious amounts of rains, especially along the coastal regions around Houston. There's also another complex of storms up here near Nebraska. There's also a low pressure center and a warm front, and that's going to be the boundary for today for severe storms, if not tornadic storms, and as we get heated up into the afternoon time frame. So let's take a look at the overall jet stream, and you can actually see it's draped well to the north here of this boundary. That's why these steering currents are so light. You have very light winds aloft, very light steering currents, and that is going to be producing very heavy rain in a short amount of time. We also have a secondary low pressure center that's diving into the Four Corners regions. That's going to set the boundary for today for an active setup for all three modes of severe storms. You can already see the convection taking place in portions of Nebraska this morning. And I think that just expands, as we head into the afternoon time frame. So let's take a look at the setup going forward from the Storm Prediction Center. As we get heated up in the afternoon, this boundary just right of the low pressure center is going to be the focal point for all three modes of severe storms draped across eastern portions of Wyoming, especially as you get into eastern portions of Colorado, western portions of Nebraska here, and those areas could actually see some tornadic activity. In fact, a 10% probability of seeing tornadoes potentially just east of Denver, south of Cheyenne, and getting into portions of North Platte all the way to Goodland. This whole area in the middle could see the highest probability of seeing our tornadic supercell as we get later on in the afternoon into the early evening time frame. And this fishtails further south along the dry line out here in far west Texas, along the Texas Panhandle. And going forward, like I mentioned, with that little mesoscale convective system, just in the last 24 hours, guys, these are known to produce very heavy rainfall in isolated locations. That's not a misprint. That's almost 10 inches of rainfall there just north of the Port O'Connor area. That's just in the last 24 hours. So that just kind of gives you an idea. There's pockets of areas that at least got 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. And then there's other areas that have seen only about 1 to 2 inches of rain. That's the mechanisms that we're dealing with as this slowly drifts towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and especially towards East Texas later on this afternoon. So here's the setup from the Weather Prediction Center. They do have that moderate risk for excessive rainfall. So you've seen some of those totals already. This is additional totals, what's already unfolded over the last 24 hours. So now as it pinwheels north and northeast headed into the East Texas, these areas of concern around the Houston area, into the Beaumont area, back here up towards Tyler, pretty much all of Louisiana, getting into the Little Rock area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Basically, if you live east of the I-35 corridor, you're probably going to see the heaviest amounts of precipitation as this kind of spins and spokes and pushes up to the north and northeast slowly because of the jet stream so far up north. It's going to be having very light winds aloft and very low steering currents. It's just going to meander and just spin and spin. And if you get any sun coming out of this area, it's just going to enhance the atmosphere and make it a little bit more unstable and just wring it out like a sponge, because these water content values are easily in the 1.5 to 2 inch per hour range. But heading into tomorrow, here's the setup. So we've got a little bit of a ridge starting to develop over portions of the Great Lakes and portions of the Northeast. At the same time, we've got this cold pocket that's coming in from the west that's going to be the focal point where the severe storms are going to be breaking out. And here is that MCV system that's going to be finally on the move. So even going into tomorrow's, you see the real estate it covers is not much, right? It's probably going to be over portions of the Texarkana region heading into Arkansas. By then during the day on the Thursday time frame. But with that low pressure to the west, to the right of there, that's where the unsettled conditions take place heading into your Thursday time frame, with a slight risk for severe storms from Rapid City to Sioux Falls into North Platte, back into Goodland again, all the way down into Topeka, Kansas. Kansas got hit hard yesterday. They're going to get hit hard again going into Thursday, and going into Dodge City all the way down into portions of Tulsa and Oklahoma. And I think these are the areas from Dodge City to Wichita all the way to the Oklahoma City area could see your biggest hail producer storms. And there's also a tornadic setup with these as well. Could see a tornado or two unfold within the Goodland region, within the Wichita, back into Topeka, all the way down into Oklahoma City. So definitely be on high alert for all three modes of severe weather and some pretty intense winds, as these storms are going to be packing a punch. But further south, we've got that instability as far as the heavier rain to work with. Now, as we transition into your Thursday, the May 11th time frame, that MCV will be finally coming out of Texas by then. Now it's going to be setting up shop over a good part of Arkansas, over Louisiana, back into Mississippi, and that will pinwheel further north, extending into portions of the Illinois region and portions of Kentucky. And then further north as well, we also have some more unsettled weather, complements of another warm front, and just to the right of there, we've got heavier pockets of rain back through the Dakotas, back through western portions of Nebraska, and getting into the northeastern portions of Colorado. That'll be in the day on Thursday. So as we transition to Friday, there's a very unique system. Look at this. Look at the location of this. This is well south and into the Baja, into Mexico, right? I mean, of all places, we've got a pretty good spin trying to develop down here in parts of Mexico. That is going to be pinwheeling further up to Texas again. And that is going to be a big time rain producer in itself, Friday, Saturday, into Sunday. And then further north, you've got that vorticity action spinning up again over the Nebraska region, over portions of the Dakotas, with again more unsettled weather for them. So further to the south, it's definitely kind of rare to see a 996 millibar low pressure center locked over Mexico for the middle of May. I mean, it's not monsoon season, it's not hurricane season yet, so very rare. It's pretty much complements of it, this El Nino that we've been kind of talking about and hinting at a little bit more, active subtropical jet stream, and we're seeing the trend, folks. I mean, this is taking a beeline out of this La Nina and almost in weak El Nino type criteria. To get to an El Nino, we've got to be plus 0.5. We're at plus 0.4, so we're really not that far off, and we're seeing the beginning stages of that, of just a more active subtropical jet stream. So that activates that subtropical jet, picks up some of that Pacific moisture, picks up the Gulf moisture, and just dumps it inland. And that's exactly what we're going to be seeing unfold over the next week. So it definitely, as we get into your, going into Friday time frame with that new vorticity that's coming out of Mexico, woo, I mean, it's got prime conditions to feed into. And now we're seeing, precipitable water content values over the 2-inch per hour range. So as soon as that low pressure center is going to be tapping into this energy, you start raining at 2 inches per hour. I mean, you've already seen what happened down there in the Houston area, already isolated pockets of almost 10 inches of rainfall. This is over 2 inches an hour. You do that for 5 hours, you got 10 inches, right? I mean, that's the type of mechanism that we're going into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday time frame. So definitely be on high alert for flash flooding. So here's the setup for Friday. So with this low pressure, areas in the Del Rio area, areas in the San Antonio area, definitely be on high alert. I mean, you've been begging for rain, and there's a saying in Texas, all droughts end in floods. And that's exactly what's going to happen down here into South Texas, folks. So definitely be on high alert. Kind of rare to see a moderate risk in place for excessive rainfall. And down here into the San Antonio region, into the Rio Grande region, yes, that's compliments of that low pressure center that's highlighted over Mexico. And that will pump in the Gulf moisture from the south. And that will eventually feed into portions, a good part of West Texas and into North Texas. So just expect a wet commute and definitely some wet times, and high alert for flash flooding down here into portions of San Antonio. There's the MCV. It's still there, guys. Now it's going to be drifting further north. So now it's locked over portions of Ohio region, getting in more of Kentucky, more of West Virginia regions. And then we'll have that warm front further to the north that has that unsettled weather that pushes a little bit further off into the east, going into that Friday time frame. Now areas more into portions of the Dakotas and getting into portions of Minnesota will start getting into the action of some of that heavier rainfall. But there's the severe threat. So as the severe threat heads into Friday, it starts to wind down a little bit. So we're making that transition very active over the next couple of days, and we should still see some severe storms heading into your Friday timeframe over portions of Iowa. And these around that low pressure center, some of these could get a little bit more unsettled, especially with the gustier winds, some damaging winds with this particular setup. So definitely be on high alert with those severe storms and the possibility of very heavy rainfall. So definitely, as we transition into that Saturday time frame, I think as the ridge starts to elevate and starts to build over a good part of the Pacific Northwest, then that'll start to shut down some of the severe storms that will be unfolding over the next couple of days. Now all eyes will be further south with this trough that's coming in and really kind of intensifying even further, especially as we get in deeper into your Saturday time frame. And that's where it gets concerning. So yesterday, when the Weather Prediction Center actually issued this, that was 5 days out. So that was Tuesday, 5 days out, had a moderate risk in place. Technically, that was the first time ever they've actually issued a moderate risk 5 days out, guys. That's pretty significant because the next step is high risk, and we've already have a moderate risk for Friday timeframe. This is Saturday, right? So this is a compounding effect. So this is heading into Saturday. So the odds of this probably might get upgraded to a higher risk are a little bit higher because they've already issued it 5 days out. And the concerning things about high risk days, and hopefully it doesn't get to this, but high risk days only happen on 4% of the days. So that is definitely concerning. And when those usually unfold, those could be fatal. I mean, turn around, don't drown is on high alert, guys. You do not cross a road that you cannot see the bottom. Things go quickly downhill fast and flash flooding. So it's a compounding effect. You've got waves of energy, heading into that region, compounding effect with going into your Friday time frame. So everything's going to be saturated. Then you have another moderate risk in place, could be high in that region by then. That's where it gets very dangerous and could be fatal in some of these areas. So definitely be on high alert. Please take this seriously because we have a very heavy amounts of rain, and these are areas that are in a drought too. So it's not going to be able to penetrate the soil as good as it was if it moistened up a little bit. So it's not going to take much to cause higher ends of flash flooding within these areas. And some of these areas, like what happened to Houston, could see some double-digit rainfall totals. So there's the setup as we go into Sunday. So even Sunday, this is going to take its sweet time. We still got the low pressure down here into Mexico, but we got a cold front. Hey, we got a cold front coming in all the way down to the deep south. And just to the right of that cold front, that's where the action is going to be. That's where the unsettled weather can be. And the stream coming in from Mexico, coming in off the Gulf, leaves more heavy rainfall. So these areas, again, along the San Antonio region, the Rio Grande region, the Del Rio region, Austin, Waco, Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City. You're in a line to get heavier rainfall, even for your Mother's Day, guys. I'm sorry. Weekend's coming. A lot of things are happening. I know the Byron Nelson's in town from down there in the Dallas region and the city of McKinney. So expect a wet golf tournament for them, especially for Saturday and Sunday time frame. And then look what happens on Tuesday. That's a cold front, guys, all the way down to the Rio Grande Valley. That's kind of rare to see in itself for May standards, as cooler than average conditions. And a lot of you guys are going to be, feeling it in a big way with much cooler conditions filtering in. Not that cold for this time of year, but hey, highs in the 70s. Anytime you get that in May, it's a welcome sight down here in the deep south. But look what happens down here where the low travels. That's a low pressure center highlighted over the southwest, guys. And underneath that, we're going to be seeing some heavier rain and cooler conditions. So you got the ridge really starting to build and amplify over the Pacific Northwest. That lowers the pressures underneath. You got the trough coming in. You got the low pressure drifting. This will be drifting off to the southwest as the cold front meanders down to the deep south. And so that will bring the cooler than average conditions over New Mexico, over West Texas, over El Paso. It's kind of a rare event to see something like this time of year, and that puts the boundary of the heavier rainfall, even as we go into, and even in the middle of next week, as the above average precipitation drifts and the much cooler conditions drift off to West Texas, drift off into New Mexico, drift off into portions of Arizona with those unsettled conditions, cooler than average conditions, rainier conditions for them. It almost looks like monsoon season is starting already, right? That complements of the hint of the El Nino having more effect on the overall weather pattern going forward. So here's just kind of giving you an idea. So these global models can't pick up on the exact verbatim as, these rain amounts over the next 7 days, but just kind of gives you an idea of some of these amounts that are already kind of hinting at isolated areas of 15 inches of rainfall is probably not out of the question. So that's why I'm very concerned about very heavy rain, flash flooding, and excessive flooding potential down here, especially if you live down here in the San Antonio region, into the Del Rio region. You need to be on extreme high alert as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday time frame. And please take this seriously, but still very heavy rain will trend further north. It's just not as significant as what they're going to be seeing further south. So hey guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update while I protect you before and after the storm.